in the army, you kind of learn to deal with shit. So I basically doubled my bankroll in the first 3 days after returning pro. I think I lost like 10 to 15% of my net worth in like 4 hours.
What lesson did that teach you?
Not to play drunk and tired, I guess. Is it better to be like a little bit too self-critical or the opposite?
That's the thing, right? You're afraid that you will lower your standards when you drop your self-criticism.
I think the big thing is to being able to adapt and change your strategy over time.
What is the current meta?
I think it for sure at high stakes it's very, very call happy. People are not folding. I like to say there's like 5 different shades of regs, but then there's like hundreds of shades of fish.
But basically what he's doing is he's avoiding uncomfortable feelings that arise when he's moving up. And these are like examples of indeed like things that are beyond the technical game. Like the technical game is only what 30-40% of in the end what makes a good player. You just node lock the solver until it does the thing that you initially thought was correct. Welcome to another episode of the Mechanics of Poker podcast. Before we get into today's episode, a quick Mechanics of Poker announcement, because behind the scenes, we have been working on the Mechanics of Poker 3.0 update, and we are currently accepting a small amount of players in our pre-launch, okay? 10 spots available. If you want to guarantee your place and enroll early, go over to mechanicsofpoker.com and apply to the Mechanics of Poker 3.0 early access. Get a chance to work with me and Adam and have us help you make more progress in your poker career. But first, let's introduce our guest for today. We'll be chatting with Finnish high-stakes cash game player Severi Palmu, better known as TheIPoker online. Severi started all the way down at 2NL, grinded his way up to 200NL when he started to play professionally, and only 1 year after that decision, he rose all the way up to taking shots at 2K and 5K, so very fast riser. He's been a consistent winner over the last 7 years in the online cash game street, so really curious to learn from him in today's episode. As always, I'm joined by the fittest co-host in the poker world, fellow Mechanics of Poker coach, Mr. Mindset and Performance, Adam Carmichael. Adam, what are you most curious for in today's episode?
Yes, today's episode should be a good one. I'm very curious to know how he's been able to move up stakes so quickly, so aggressively. Most players will think it's been strategic breakthroughs, but I've got a feeling there's going to be some very big mindset breakthroughs that he's made on this journey. So I'm looking forward to unpacking his secrets, how he's been able to build a mindset that's allowed him to aggressively move up to the high stakes and have consistent success.
Me too, very much looking forward to this episode. But before we start, we have teamed up with some partners in the poker industry that in our experience can help boost your poker career. First one being GTO Wizard. If you're a frequent listener of the pod, you know that at least 90% of our guests use solvers to get ahead in the game. And GTO Wizard is by far the best and most accessible tool if you want to use GTO and get ahead as well.
We are proud to announce a technological breakthrough. Introducing GTO Wizard AI. This powerful technology can solve any custom poker spot in seconds to high accuracy. Unlike pre-solved solutions, this allows you to edit the solving parameters. That means you can modify the ranges, change the stack and pot sizes, customize the betting tree, and automatically simplify and optimize your bet sizes. Brace yourself. The meta is about to change.
So sign up to GTO Wizard using the link below, gtowizard.com/mechanics. Get 10% off your first month and join the weekly coaching webinars, of which one every month is with me. Looking forward to educating you guys over there. Next up is Universal Poker. If you're playing poker without a good rakeback deal, you are leaving free money at the tables. This is where our partnership with Universal comes in. Whether you're making a new account or want to boost your existing account, we can give you the best deals on the market. But what sets Universal Poker apart in today's market is carefully selecting the sites that they want to work with. They only collaborate with sites that have their shit together and that offer clear lines of communication with the higher ups at the sites. This line of communication makes them more like a personal assistant for players rather than just an affiliate, which in my opinion adds a lot of value to the deal. Visit universalpoker.com, link in the description, and be sure to enter code MECHANICS to access the exclusive deals we've arranged for our listeners. Universalpoker.com, enter code MECHANICS. Severi has joined the call, so let's start today's episode. All right, Severi, thank you for coming on the podcast, man.
Thank you for having me. I'm a big fan actually of the podcast, so it's great to be here.
Severi, I saw you got into poker when you were only 10 years old. Now, I'm wondering what attracts a 10-year-old kid to poker, and how and where did you start playing?
Yeah, so actually, the first time I ever even knew about poker was like, I think it was when I was 10 years old, and I think I saw like Casino Royale. It was just a new movie back then, and then like obviously it has the big poker scenes in Casino Royale, and that was kind of the first time I got interested in poker. It was pretty obviously the movie is quite exciting and the big poker scene with it. And then after that, I got super interested in poker. Even at 10, 11, I was something like 20, 10, 11 years old. And I actually got quite into it then. I started to went to all the like film places where you could rent films, you know, the old DVDs and VHS, and just search for any kind of movie that basically had poker in it. So I was just obsessed and kind of wanted to see everything about poker. And then obviously I got found a lot of movies like Rounders, for example, was one of them. And then I think there was a couple of others. There wasn't quite a lot, but there was a couple of movies that had poker. I think Rounders was one of them, and then there was this one movie with Sylvester Stallone, with they played like card stud in it, which was kind of interesting. I don't remember the name of that, but yeah, I saw those and was quite actually into it back then. And then actually at that time, like there used to be like old WPT tournaments on the TV in Finland. And actually my mom recorded those for me because they were so late, so I couldn't watch them because I think they started at like midnight. So my mom would record them, and then I would look at them the next day. So it's pretty funny to think now back then, because
Did you manage to get some
yeah,
practice in yourself as well, or did you stick to
yeah,
watching?
yeah, I played with a couple of friends, a lot of with my friends, because I was playing football. So with on the like, a lot of the football friends, we were playing poker, and during the football trips on the bus, for example, we used to play a lot of poker back then. And
Really? For money
yeah,
already? Or I mean, what do you put
yeah.
on the line? What do you put on the line if you're a 10-year-old kid? I don't know. I didn't have any money when I was 10. Or
I
at
mean,
least
we were playing for like 5 cent, 10 cent, basically, like really small stakes, but it's still for money. And actually, there's some couple of pretty decent stories back there, because there was a couple of guys who we were also playing like rock paper scissors for money, which is quite degen for a 10, 11-year-old. But yeah, we were always playing. There was actually a couple of other games we were playing for money. Like there was this card thrown game. So we basically took a card and tried to throw it next to a wall, and the one who got closest would win. Actually, I was quite a big crusher in that game. That was my main game, like the card throw game. But yeah, we were playing a lot of games during the football trips, and a lot of poker was played also.
I remember we
And
we used to play this game as well, where you said where you throw, like you have to throw it closest to the wall. But we would then, I think, like best of 3 or something, and then if you lose, you would lose the card. So let's say, I think we did with like Pokemon cards and stuff like that. Flippos back then, or like I don't know how you call these balls. You know, whoever is closest to the wall, and then you just lose your ball or your card. Since like I said, I had no money on me, man, when I was 10.
Yeah, I don't think we were playing with super high stakes, but it was still money. I mean, 10 euros is quite a lot for like 11, 12-year-old kids. So
You mentioned
it was
you were
some at
doing it
stake.
like on the football bus, and your mom was sort of involved as well. Did no one say, hey guys, maybe we shouldn't gamble when we're 10 years old?
I think nobody really batted an eye actually. It was quite normal. Like even the like coaches or parents weren't too. I mean, we weren't playing like super obviously high stakes, and it wasn't that serious, I guess. So nobody got into big debt at least. But yeah, it
Do
was
you
quite
recall
normal.
deploying already any like sort of strategy, or was it just you know, you look at your cards and try to connect with the board, or do you recall any sort of conscious knowledge of what you were doing?
No, not really. Actually, it was quite. Everybody was kind of guessing around, and I think it was quite a lot of gambling. So, not really strategy involved. I think back then.
You already mentioned like football. Have you been competitive in any other sports or games before poker?
No, not really. Actually, football was the only one. I mean, I play video games decent bit, and I wouldn't say competitively, but I'm pretty competitive. So when I do something, I take it pretty serious. So even though I'm not really playing at a competitive level, some video games I try at least pretty hard. So
You don't like
uh,
losing.
yeah, no, for sure not.
No. So
And
that was
yeah,
already like from a young age. You mentioned football. How competitive were you playing football?
I was like I think the years like between ages between like 10 to 16, I was like super put in a ton of effort to football, and it was like my main goal then to become a professional football player. But then and actually won a couple of like championships in Finland, like under 16 and 15, I think. But then I got injured when I was 16, and then that kind of I was off for like little under 6 months, and that kind of took a lot of the motivation from putting the effort in the game. And then also like I kind of realized that I'm not good enough to get into the big leagues basically. So I could have become a pretty decent player in Finland and like the leagues in Finland, but that wasn't like super motivating to me if that's the kind of the ceiling for my career. So, and actually at that time, around 17, I found poker again, and then that kind of sealed the nail in the coffin. At that time, I was like super excited when at 17, I think I found like a YouTube video, like old high stakes poker, like Phil Hellmuth clip, and that kind of reignited my excitement and passion for poker that I had like at 10, 11 years old. So then it was kind of clear that football wasn't really the thing. And actually at that time, like both football and kind of school, before that I was like putting a decent effort in school too. But then when I found poker, like both school and football were put in the back burner, and I was like obsessed with poker after that.
What is it that you like about the competitive environment of, for example, taking football serious? Or you said you don't like losing, and obviously poker, very competitive environment as well.
Yeah, I don't know actually. Like I think it's just like seeing being skillful at something was always like the thing for me. Like being good at something, and when you're like better at something than somebody else, it kind of gratifies you for sure. And then yeah, I guess that's the main thing, that it's kind of shows that you're good at something when you're like competing against other people who are taking this stuff seriously. So I guess
Yeah,
that's the
like sort
main
of the
thing.
ranking system of it.
Yeah, for sure. Like seeing that you can compete and be good at something, I guess.
You mentioned that one of the things that demotivated you in football were that you didn't really see yourself, or at least you thought you had a ceiling, that you were never really gonna succeed at a high level. What made you think like that, and why didn't you have that in poker?
I think in football, like I was like there was people around me who were like getting invited to like the national team training camps and like abroad even, like some people went abroad to play. They were invited to, like, for example, England. A couple of guys went to England and I was never like part of that group. And even those players, like, the road was pretty hard for them too, even though they were like the top of my age group. So, and I wasn't a part of that. So then I kind of realized that it's pretty hard to make it where I would like to be, like playing abroad, like the big leagues, and it would be pretty rough road to even make it, even if you're the one of the best of my like age group. So, and I wasn't, so it was pretty clear to me that it would be very unlikely that I would make it very far, and that kind of put stop to a lot of the effort I was putting into football, because I didn't really want to be in the like the middle or low level, you know what I mean. So, and that was kind of the exit point when I found poker. So it was like, and poker excited me so much, and it was super like I kind of saw that it would be a path that would be more realistic even. I don't know.
Oh wow,
Like
that's interesting.
being
Did you have any like examples? Obviously, you watched a lot of footage on TV, but obviously they make it look very very flashy. Did you have any like maybe examples closer to you of like, hey, you can actually do this as a career? Because I can imagine it's easier to look at football players and be like, that's a career, instead of like poker players, especially online, kind of this mysterious dark world.
yeah. Yeah, I actually know. Like, I don't really have, like, I was just obsessed with the game from the beginning, and I basically watched every YouTube video that was about poker in YouTube. Like, I watched everything, every blog. I tried to like find everything I could find about poker, and there for sure was like blogs in Tubas too that were super motivating for me. For example, like Alex Trev is one of them. The blogs that I found like in I think 2012 or 13, and that was like for sure one of the first kind of guys that kind of would be, or they showed kind of the path that I could maybe make myself to become a professional. So I guess like a lot of the blogs in 2+2 for more like they were probably the kind of role models for me, like, or like the path that I would try to replicate, I guess.
And especially, I think with a blog, right, you really get a big insight of, depending obviously the person who's blogging and how open he is, but I guess you get a really good insight of how the life of probably an online poker pro would look like. What or when and how did you decide to go pro poker player? You mentioned you got really into it at 17. Did you just immediately quit school, quit football, and turn pro, or did you need a little bit of time to actually get to a level where you could consider turning pro?
I think I started to take poker more seriously like between 17 and 18. I was playing like free rolls and like play money games even at the start. And then when I turned 18, I deposited like 20 euros a couple of times. I busted that. And then I deposited like 100 euros to 888. And with the mindset that if I would bust this, I wouldn't, like, this was like my own, pretty much the only chance I would give myself to take this seriously. And then after that, I really didn't look back. From that 100 euros I've grinded, I was like super conservative at the beginning because I really wanted to make it. So I was playing like 2NL for a long time, then slowly grinded the limits. And then I think after like 2.5 years after that, I have grown my bankroll to around like 25k. So I was playing 200L quite a lot, and like before that, I was going to the army for a little under a year. So that took quite a lot of time, and I couldn't really play a lot during that time. So after that, when I came from army, I actually had a job for a couple of months, and after that I had, like I said, I had like grew my bankroll to around 25k, and then just one day decided that I'm gonna turn pro. I told my mom that I will quit my job and I will go pro. And actually, the luckiest thing in my career happened after that. Like 3 days after I said to my mom that I will quit my job and start to play poker professionally, I actually won a tournament for like 28k. So I basically doubled my bankroll in the first 3 days after turning pro. So that was like absolutely massive boost to my confidence and bankroll. Obviously, that was super lucky in the beginning, and that's probably one of the biggest like turning points in my career actually, because that was so. It became in a such a good timing that I won the tournament, so it relieved a lot of the stress and pressure off of me. And after
Yeah,
that, I've grinded and never looked back actually after that. So
I think it's
been
very
a pretty
important
smooth
to
grinding.
imagine if you start your career and you immediately go on like one of the worst downswings ever. Basically, your career is kind of GG, right? You haven't really built, I
Yeah.
think, the resistance, you know. So I think that will be, I think probably a trend if you look at all current professional players. They probably ran good in the beginning, because I feel like if in the beginning you hit like that 5% bottom stretch, you're like, this is
Yeah.
not, I'm out. You know, you're not gonna be able to recognize variance. So then you're just gonna be like, well, I guess it's just not for me. Yeah, that's actually pretty interesting. You mentioned that you went to the army. I was wondering if or what or if there were certain lessons that you learned in your experiences in football in the army that have helped you um, in your poker career. Obviously there's no school for poker, you know. Normally if you choose a profession you have like 4 years of school or something before you actually go into the profession. What did you
Yeah.
learn throughout your experience in life that helped you in poker?
Well, I think football for sure like taught me about being like a professional and like an athlete. That for sure helps with poker too. There's a lot of similarities in that and like the competitive aspect also. Like you have to be sharp, be like professional, be like multidimensional in your approach. You have to be good nutrition, good like rest. All these things help with poker too. So that's for sure with what football helped me with. And army actually, in the army you kind of learn to deal with shit. So there was a lot of just like dealing with shit. That's basically what the army was like. And I guess that's what war actually is like. You have to kind of know how to deal with shit and be in the uncertainty. You don't know what's gonna happen. You don't, and that's kind of like the army training is probably supposed to be also like you. They're training you to learn how to deal with uncertainty and like dealing with shitty situations, like shitty weather, shitty how to move when you're tired, super tired, or super with low sleep. Like just basically dealing with shit. That's what the army kind of taught me, at least.
Well, that seems handy. In poker, you get a lot of shit thrown at you. So, actually, nowadays, even literally at these tables, you know, with all this animation, people just shit at you all the time. So, good skill to have. Good skill to have. What were some of your goals and expectations when you started out playing pro? Obviously, making a tournament 3 days in was beyond your expectations.
Yeah, I think like my first goal was just to become a pro, to make like most of my income from poker, and that was the first goal. Then I had like goals of making certain amounts of money. So first was like 100k to make 100k. After that was to make 1 million, and after that I got that. So then after that I'm just kind of cruised. So after that the goals have changed a bit when I got quite a lot of certainty, like financial security. So then my goals have shifted more to like becoming the best player I can be and being more competitive and that. I think in the beginning it was more about like the financial security aspect. I wanted to be sure that I'm financially secure, so that was the big focus in the beginning, because I really didn't have a backup plan. Like I was all in poker, and so the just making sure that I enough money to play comfortably and live comfortably was the first goal for sure. But nowadays I think it's more about like becoming the best player I can be, and also like more whole person, I guess, to overall like self-improvement, I guess, more to this day.
What unexpected challenges or experience did you encounter when turning pro?
Unexpected. Let's see. I guess like a lot of the swings of poker kind of are very unnatural to you, to anybody at first. Like you're not used to like losing a lot of money, using really not used to the swings. I guess that was for sure like one of the first ones. And then I guess like, because poker is such a different career from everybody else, or at least a lot of people, so it's kind of, I guess the social aspect was maybe a little unexpected. I don't know if it, like dealing with or telling people basically what you do, like that was kind of weird for me. Still is actually a little bit weird to kind of talk to people who are not in poker. It's like kind of weird to explain it. It's always, the conversation seems to be pretty, I guess, hard and not really natural to. I find difficulties explaining to people what I do. I guess that's one of them.
Adam, when you explain people that you're a professional poker player, how did they usually react, and how do you think we can basically better explain it so people find it an interesting thing to do?
That's a tough one. I feel like some guys, like in their 20s, find it super fascinating. I've been in the bank before, opening an account, and some guys be like, whoa, tell me more. You play poker for a living. Coolest thing ever. But most people just think you're a bit of a degenerate, especially the elder population. Even my family, some of them still are like, oh, you got very lucky with that gambling that you did for a while. How did life work out after? So, yeah, I think the main thing is not trying to force it onto the people. You've just got to, I think the best thing you can do is show over time with your attitude and approach to it that you're taking it seriously. Then over time, they have confidence in you as an individual and the path you're going down. They still probably don't know much about poker, especially I'm referring to parents, elderly people who aren't going to go looking on blogs and reading about you and the poker landscape. But yeah, your attitude towards what you do, I think, has a big influence on whether people think you're wasting your time or you're actually taking things seriously. So yeah, over time, hopefully they start to warm up. So I'm really interested to dive into your story and your journey to high stakes. I've kind of got 3 phases that I want to go through. So the first one is the 2 years before you went pro. And I think you mentioned you're playing super low stakes with that €100 bankroll, and you went from 2NL to 200NL in a roughly 2-year span. So I'm curious to know, during this time, talk us through how you approach in poker and some of the main lessons you learned. I always feel like when you go from one level to the next, there's a leveling up of your character, there's a leveling up of your, obviously, strategy. So talk us through that evolution from 2NL to 200NL.
Yeah, I think that was a very interesting time. I was, I think it like there was a lot of learning happening then, and obviously like the games were very different back then to now. And I was just like, like I said, I was very like quite conservative with my bankroll. Because I wanted to make it so bad that I was like trying to kind of control that I wouldn't go bust. That was the biggest thing. And then I guess every time you move that stakes, it's always it's kind of funny even now if you compare it to nowadays. Like the moving up process is still the same. Like even back then, like when I moved from, I remember actually when I took my first shot at like 100 NL, I I played one table. I stacked a guy for a buy-in, and then I played like 2 orbits and left. I was so scared to lose the buy-in back that I was just happy to like book up a win and leave. That's one of fun memory of that. But yeah, I think like I guess like you just get used to always at the higher stakes, even though like every time you move up, it feels such a big deal. But you kind of realize that you always get used to the next level, and then yeah, I guess that's the biggest thing that was just slowly taking shots at good games at that time, and then I mean the games were pretty soft back then, so it was. I guess my approach was kind of like just learn from a lot of the videos on that I could find. I had a subscription to Run It Once, and that was a big help back then because there wasn't a lot of other learning tools back then, like maybe just reviewing your own hands and just like watching Run It Once videos. So I guess that was like the main way to improve, and then slowly taking shots, and it was pretty smooth actually. There wasn't like huge downswings, at least that I can recall back then.
Were there any levels that were particularly challenging to crack, or do you feel like you, like you said, approached it the same way? You just took a shot with your bankroll, and you were able to get some momentum in each level.
Yeah, I think at the lower stakes there wasn't really like tough stakes to crack, but when I got to like 1K, 2K, then I think that was the first time I had like problems with some of the stakes. So not really at the lower stakes, but a little bit higher was for sure some difficulties.
All right, so phase 1, smooth sailing from 2NL to 200NL. Then phase 2, which was about a year and a half, it took you to go from 200NL to shooting 2Ks. So this is a big jump, like to go for those levels. Those are competitive stakes, 500s, 1Ks. So I'm curious to know, what was your approach at this stage of your career, and what do you feel like you were doing that allowed you to, one, aggressively shot take, but also to not set a ceiling for yourself? It's very common for players to start getting affected by the money, maybe start doubting themselves, maybe start limiting themselves, so to speak. So what do you think allowed you to kind of push through from 200s to 2Ks in the space of a year?
I think it was just like my approach was just like, if the game was good, I was gonna play. So, and I think I actually now that I think my like bankroll management was like not that conservative, I guess. Like I was taking like 50 buy and shots, so it's not like the most conservative bankroll management, I guess. But every time I just saw a good game, I was taking a shot if I got a seat. And I think one of the reasons that I moved from 200 to, I guess, 2K quite fast was because I ran like extremely well at 500. I remember like the first year of 2016 when I turned pro, like in the summer, I took my first shots at 500, and I had like, I won 100 buy-ins in like 2 months. So that was like a massive, unbelievable run good at 500. So it also gave me a lot of confidence to, I guess, moving up too, because when I like move up to 500, also 500 was like a limit that was kind of scary, you know. There was like a lot of these 500 zoom wrecks that you see on like Run It Once videos, and they had this like aura about them, I guess, or at least like maybe like a fake aura, at least. Kind of make it look more scarier than probably it was. But then when I took shots at 500 and it went like unbelievably well, then I guess that gave me the confidence to take aggressive shots like to the next levels too. So I think that was a big thing that make me want to take shots pretty aggressively.
What do you think was giving you your edge in these games? Because obviously you're probably less experienced than a lot of regulars at the 500s, 1Ks. Yeah, you're jumping in there, obviously, like you mentioned, running good, but we're assuming that you've got an edge in those games as well. What do you feel like you were doing around your game that was potentially giving you an edge on your opponent at that time?
I think the games were super soft back then. Like the 500 Zoom games were absolutely like there was some times where the games were super soft. So that was for sure one of the big factors. But also like I think one of my strengths always has been like learning from better players. That has been I think one of big reasons for my edge is that. If I see something that somebody does that's I think it's good, I'm pretty quick to adapt and take the good parts of somebody's game and like attach it to my game. So I think that's always been like a big strength of mine. To I think Picasso sometimes said that how did he say how's the quote go? I think it's good artist copy, great artist steal. So basically, that's been my approach a lot of time. So if I see some good player do something, that I think it's good, I think it's interesting, I will take a look at and then try to find the reason why he is doing that, and then try to replicate that and add the good parts to my game. I think that has been a big part of my edge throughout my career for sure.
You're like a sponge, absorbing all the good knowledge from the players around you, adding that to your game as needed. You did mention that 1K has created a few problems. What was the challenge you ran into when shooting those levels?
I think 1K wasn't that bad, but I think 2K was the biggest. Like I really felt like I was outmatched. Like a lot of the regs when I first started playing 2K, like I felt like a lot of the regs were like clearly better than me, even though I was playing pretty. I was taking shots when like there was always like a recreational playing, but still like I felt like I was clearly outmatched, and I felt like I was playing maybe a little scared, like scared money, and there was for sure some wrecks that were pounding on me for that. I think bit too easy was one of them that gave me a really tough time back then. It was just pounding super aggressively, and I was just scared. But that was I think the toughest level for me. And then I think that's probably one of the toughest levels that's throughout my career that have given me the most difficulties.
So how did you learn from that? Because I feel like a lot of players, as you mentioned there, for you, the 500s are very easy. You had a great run rate and you are running good as well. Then you run into the 2Ks and all of a sudden you, for the first time probably, encounter better players. You're like, wow, these guys not as running good, they're actually better players than me. For a lot of players, that would be a good sign to go, all right, not ready. Let's get back down to 500s, grind out some easy money, and I'll leave those 2Ks for another time. You didn't do that. So what do you think allowed you to keep going to 2Ks, and how did you learn from the better players around you to finally break into that level?
I think I actually ran pretty bad at 2K too, so it was like mix of pretty, like run bad and obviously like getting outclassed. But I found it quite motivating to see. I've always find it quite motivating to see like better players, because I feel like I can kind of learn a lot from them. So I think it was just like I wanted to move up, and even though I was probably not ready to play that, it was a great learning experience, because even nowadays, like the good thing about playing like really good players is that they kind of expose you even to maybe truths about your game that you're not even aware of. Like they force like put your weaknesses in the forefront, that then you can see and look at them, and that can be very helpful. That you might be, when you're playing lower, you can get away with stuff that you can't get away with higher stakes. So when you're playing higher stakes, the good decks can kind of beat the weaknesses out of you in the limelight, and then you can see, aha, that's clearly a weakness, and I can improve on that. So I think that helped me a lot. And then I just trial and error, just took always shots. If it went bad, then I would slow down a bit, and then when I was won back the money at the lower stakes, then I would take a shot again and repeat the process again and again until I found some success and could move up.
So it sounds like you were treating these 2Ks a little bit like practice and trying to play better players, let them expose your weaknesses, get better, learn from it, try again. And I love that attitude because life's a game of like trying to adapt to your environment, realizing when you have a failure or failed attempt that it's not final, to come back stronger next time. How do you feel like you were able to do this when there was a lot of money on the line? Obviously, this is not a free attempt. You're losing decent amounts of money at 2Ks. And also your ego. There's an element of self-doubt that can creep in. Am I good enough? Have I reached my ceiling? I know in football, for example, you mentioned you saw good guys around you who were potentially going to the bigger leagues. Did you have any self-doubt when you were seeing the big names in the online game beating you? Did you think that maybe you've reached your ceiling here? Or did you feel like this was a different chapter for you?
Yeah, I think in poker, like in football, it was different because there was certain like somebody would be like clearly like physically better, so that was something like I couldn't really work on in football. That in poker it was different because I could see that a lot of the things that my opponent were better, I could work on that. So it wasn't like something that I couldn't reach. So that was the difference between football and poker for sure. And then like, yeah, that's pretty much it. I think like, I think in poker it was easier, I guess, to like learn and get better than in football. There was like felt like was more limitations, like physical limitations that didn't doesn't exist in poker. So that was a big thing for sure.
Yeah, you could see the path and you could see the skills you were lacking. You could add them to your game, and it wasn't going to be a long-term limitation. It was just a lack of skill in that moment. I had a similar experience with middle distance running. I trained with some very good athletes who went on to be Olympic athletes, and you can very quickly see that I'm not going to catch up this gap. There's a few characteristics that you have where I'm going to train equally as hard, maybe harder than you, but there's some things that I'm not going to be able to overcome. But yeah, with poker, it's often just, okay, I can see you're executing a better strategy. I can definitely learn that. I can, use a guideline of what I should be working on. And like I said, those good players are quickly exposing your weaknesses, which is great because if you can get away from taking that personally, you know exactly what to work on because they're putting like a spotlight on everything that's unfinished in your game. So it's a great time to go, right, this is what I need to work on next. So you had a successful shot at 2Ks. You kind of cemented yourself there a little bit, but you didn't stop there for very long. And in the next year, phase 3, you went from playing 2Ks to shot taking 10Ks. So talk us through this phase, how this next transition went. At any point did you think, okay, I'm happy where I'm at, or what made you keep striving, and what were you learning through these next chapters?
I guess like I didn't really have goals. After like I had obviously making a pro was the first goal, then it was like making 100K, and then was making 1 million. After that, I didn't really like have a goals, like clear goals that I was aiming for. So I guess like the next levers became the goals. So get higher, play higher and higher stakes. And then I guess that was the big motivation to take shots at higher stakes. And then you kind of realize also that like the higher stakes, even though there's better recs for sure, also like the rake is lower, obviously, and then like the recreational are also often like even worse than at like mid stakes. So the games can be really good at high stakes. Obviously, I guess the difficulty is the like the variance is high, like the swings are bigger, so that's and also there's not a lot of games, so I think that can hinder a lot of players because you can't really get back into the fight even if you want, unless you want to play the big dogs three-handed every day, and that's not maybe the best thing for your bankroll if you that's the only way you're gonna like take shots at higher stakes. So but I guess the main thing was like it was like the next goal for me to just get higher and higher, play higher stakes, and play with better players at higher stakes. I guess that was the biggest motivation for me.
Yeah, I think sometimes in poker you don't always need that clear direction because poker set out in a levels format, and you can just keep going up the levels, going to that next level, and once you've achieved success at one, the next level is just waiting for you to kind of take a shot at. So it seems like for you, with your mindset, as you mentioned with Rene earlier, you're very competitive. You like that kind of ranking system. You like pursuing that next goal, seeing how far you can push things, and poker became a good avenue to test yourself. You mentioned that kind of challenge, which I want to touch on. When you play higher stakes, like the volume's less. So let's say you shot take some 10Ks and you lose 3 buy-ins and there's no action for the next few days. How do you deal with that? How do you kind of come to terms with the fact that a lot of your win rates or maybe your profits for that period of time are going to be dictated by a small sample and you don't really have much control over that? How are you juggling with that? 'Cause I know some players struggle with the lower volume when they reach higher stakes.
I definitely struggle with that too. Like, it kind of decrease the motivation to play lower when you play higher stakes. Like, if I lose a lot, then I'm not super motivated to play the lower stakes. So that's definitely something I've noticed with myself. But then you kind of have to realize that even the lower stakes you are just playing to, there are like good spots, good EV in those games. So I guess one good way to think about is to think about it as in terms of buy-ins. So if you lose 3 buy-ins at 10K, it's kind of the similar thing to losing 3 buy-ins at 2K or 1K. Just in terms of thinking about in buy-ins can help a lot. At least I have noticed that it helps me a lot. That I just like not think in terms of money. So thinking in terms of buy-ins has helped me a lot. So if I lose 3 buy-ins at 10K, it's like I lost 3 buy-ins. So I wouldn't be like super mad if I lost 3 buy-ins at my lower stakes. So why be mad when I lost 3 buy-ins at the higher stakes? Also, it's easier said than done, but that's for sure at least helped me like mentally a little bit.
Yeah, easier said than done, but I think a great mindset. I know a lot of players, when they're shooting higher stakes, they like to convert that buy-in into dollar amounts just to make it painful for themselves. But yeah, if you can learn to just always look at buy-ins, always see the bigger picture, allow a sample to grow, and just think in buy-ins for a period. Obviously, you need to have a bankroll that can support that. You can't just go on forever with that mentality. But yeah, I think it's a good rule of thumb to not overattach to the financial. You mentioned like in the question as well that you're a bit of a YOLO guy and a gambler at heart. How has that impacted you in both a positive and negative way? We'll start with a positive angle. How has this helped you to move up stakes so aggressively?
Yeah, I guess like I don't guess take things too seriously when it comes to poker sometimes, but I guess I'm not like that big of a gambler, to be honest. Like I like to like calculate it, I guess, gamble, but if it really like starts to affect my like lifestyle and stuff, then I guess I won't gamble that hard. But if I have room to gamble, I for sure like to maybe take shots at higher stakes that maybe the game is not that good and that. But I guess I'm not that big of a gambler if it's like affecting my lifestyle. But because I know some guys who are like, even though they have like a 200K bankroll, they're like taking shots at 10K and stuff. So I'm not that kind of I guess that kind of gambler. But I like to take shots, try new like even try new games a bit, and yeah, I guess trying if there's a good spot, I for sure like to gamble a bit. Not being like super strict about using money in a lot of spots. So I guess that.
Yeah, I see. It seems like you're a gambler within boundaries, and you have like kind of parameters of risk without going too far over those. Have you had any negative experiences by gambling too much, maybe taking on too much risk, or taking on opportunities, whatever they are, that have proved to be costly?
Yeah, I think like there's only one day in my career that I couldn't sleep because of poker, and that it was actually during Christmas. Like I was with my family, we were just like eating and drinking a bit, and then after everything was going to sleep, I saw some there was like 10K and 20K games on 888. They used to have this push or fold. I think they still have. It's like a 5 big blind buying, and then you basically it's a push or fold game, and there was this like pretty big recreational player who I have played before, and I decided to took a pretty aggressive shot at that game, and I think I lost like 10 to 15% of my net worth in like 4 hours, and then that couldn't really sleep after that. But that's the basically only time I couldn't sleep because of poker. But I guess that was pretty devastating at that time.
What lesson did that teach you?
Not to play drunk and tired, I guess. Especially at the highest stakes you ever played. But yeah, I guess I learned that pretty quick, and yeah, that was just like a one-time thing. But it also, like, it was quite early in my career, so I was willing to gamble a little bit more, I guess.
Yeah, sometimes you need a quick and early lesson in your career to you get bit once and you don't touch the hot thing again. So I think for you that was a good example. You mentioned you haven't had a real rock bottom moment in your career, but 2021 was a year in particular that was quite challenging for you. Talk us through that year. What was particularly tough?
Yeah, I think in 2020 I had like obviously COVID happened, and actually the games were insanely good during 2020, and I had my best year during 2020. There were some insanely good games, and I had by far my best year result wise, and like felt like I think I have had only like a one losing month during that year, so I had a very massive year 2020, and that kind of built maybe some expectations for the next year that were way too high. So then the next year 2021 I was super excited and expected to have even a better year the next year, which was quite dumb. And then obviously the games kind of died out in 2021 quite a lot because 2020 was such a good year. So then I just didn't win for the next 4 months, and I was super like got really frustrated, and I started to kind of hate poker. I every time I played, I had a quite bad mindset. I was already kind of like mad before playing, and then I actually took quite a lot of. I think I took like 4 months off during that year because I just couldn't. I like my mindset was so off during that year. I was so mad every time I played. So I guess that was the I guess closest thing to a rock bottom moment for me. But I think after I took the break, it kind of eased out of it. Like my expectations became lower, and kind of came back to reality about the situation, and then I found enjoyment at poker again. So
Yeah. Other than the break, was there anything you did to change your approach to poker or your mindset? It sounds like, as you mentioned, your expectations going into 2021 got quite high, and that came kind of crashing down with some bad results. So, other than the break, anything else that you found helpful in terms of your approach, your strategies, your daily habits that you were changing?
yeah, I think I was starting to play a little bit less volume and more quality, with better quality. I was playing. Also, one thing I did was I started to play slower. That I would make decisions a little bit slower, so I would make like stupid mistakes, and because that was always one thing that kind of irritated me and tilted me a little bit. That if I would play too fast and then would make a mistake, that after 2 seconds I realized I made some stupid mistakes just because I played too fast. So I guess that was a big thing for me, that I started to play a little bit slower, so I wouldn't make those like stupid mistakes, and that was really good for my mindset too. That playing slower, and then at that time I actually started to battle quite a bit more. I started to hold lobbies more, and that was also like a refreshing thing for me for sure. Because before that I was quite I was battling here and then, but not that much. And then after that I guess the battles kind of reignited also the competitive side and like passion and excitement and interest in the game. Sure.
Reignite that flame. Yeah.
I hope you guys are enjoying this episode. Quick announcement, because we have just opened up early access to the Mechanics of Poker 3.0 coaching program. That's right, we've opened up 10 spots. You can apply over at mechanicsofpoker.com or use the link in the description down below if you want to work with me and Adam and have us help you make more progress in your poker career. The Mechanics of Poker 3.0 includes all goodness that was in previous versions of the Mechanics of Poker, various session reviews of players in our community, and leak finding tools which can help you spot and fix leaks in your game. Open during the next week, 10 spots available. Apply now and maybe one is yours. But without further ado, let's get back into more goodness in today's episode.
So for you, you mentioned earlier with Rene that you approach poker a bit like an athlete, quite holistically. So I'm curious to know how your days are set up for performance in terms of like an average day. So yeah, it'd be great for the listeners to know what does a day in the life look like for you. Let's go back to a period where maybe you're striving, maybe that 2K to 10K jump where you're striving to play some of the best players. Talk us through how your routines, habits were looking to kind of allow you to perform at a high level.
I always been kind of like a freestyler with that, to be honest. Like not necessarily like a super athletic approach to it. Like always, like I think just getting good sleep has always been super important for me. Like that playing with good sleep and has been always the most important thing for my performance for sure. But I generally like I'm pretty freestyler when it comes to my routine. That's been maybe a little bit like a struggle with me during my career. That's I've kind of struggled to find like I guess sleep schedule, because I always had the problem with the schedule that if I like the best schedule for like life in general would be like waking up in the morning and going bed at night. But then the games are way better at night. So I struggled with that kind of duality, that if I wanna perform better and also have a better like life quality, I would kind of have to sacrifice a little bit from the EV from poker. So yeah, but then again, like I always kind of shift to the night schedule because the games are just so much better during the night. So that usually I try to be in the kind of normal good schedule, but then look at the make the mistakes to looking at the lobbies during a night, and then I guess I'll play a little session, and then it's 4 a.m. and my schedule is fucked again. So I guess that's been a bit of a struggle for me for sure, like the deciding what schedule to play on. But yeah, when it comes to my routine, I guess like trying to be a pretty decent health and yeah, like I said, like sleep, getting good sleep before playing has been a big part, and I think that's very important for performance.
Yeah, I think for schedule, obviously, as you mentioned, there's opportunities that are available late at night in particular, and there's a trade-off. Do I want to seize these lobbies and the higher win rates here, or do I want to prioritize sleep? And there's going to be like you said, a duality between those two sometimes, and in conflict. But at the same time, it sounds like even when your schedule moves around, you still try to prioritize sleep and recovery to make sure you're not burning out. Is there anything else you do on a regular basis that allows you to play your best poker? Is there any like habits you have, even if they move around day to day, week to week, that you come back to often that you feel like correlate with you playing your best poker?
Yeah, I think like I have a couple of times where I have been on a pretty strict like working out schedule. So I would like wake up and work out and do that pretty much every day. And I've noticed that that's been probably the best I've played always when I've been on that like pretty strict like working out schedule and eating pretty well and sleeping well. Obviously, that's been the best. But then again, I always struggle with that because usually I have to be in the morning schedule with that. But then kind of the can't play at night when I'm on that schedule though. So it's kind of like trade-off. Do I want to like play very good when I'm with a good schedule, or do I want to like a little bit sacrifice my schedule and then like just play in the better games during the night? That has been, I guess, that's been a kind of a switch off for me. Sometimes I'm in the night schedule, sometimes I'm in the like more stricter morning schedule. So it's yeah.
How do you balance your personal life and free time when your schedule's moving around? Let's say you're going from night schedule sometimes to day schedule sometimes. How do you kind of find that balance with your time away from poker?
Honestly, it's been a bit tough. Like sometimes, like this night schedule is very bad for like social life. So it's been a little bit of struggle with that. I guess I sometimes like one thing I have done that I kind of have periods where I'm on this night schedule and sometimes on periods in the morning schedule. So then when I'm on the morning schedule, I kind of prioritize maybe social life more. So that's probably the way I've handled it. But when I'm on the night schedule, it's pretty tough because I'm waking up during like day and people are, yeah, it's pretty tough. But on the other hand, you can like still have a decent social life even when the night schedule because you're awake like during the evening. So we can basically during the start of your day you can have a social life and then play at night. So it's not too bad, but I prefer for social life for sure prefer the morning schedule.
Yeah, I think that obviously there's trade-offs of each schedule, and I think it's just being conscious of the pros and cons of each. If you're doing the night shift, you're gonna take a bit hit on sleep scheduling and yeah, free time spent with friends. And if you're on the more normal grinding early in your day, you might have worse games, but you might have a better sleep schedule, better free time in the evening. So yeah, I think as long as you're conscious and you're aware of why you're doing things and you're going into it like this chapter of my life, I want to make lots of money, I want to play these games, then it's absolutely fine as long as you find that balance over a longer sample. I'm curious to know about you because you feel like somebody who doesn't really judge themselves too much. And I know a lot of players struggle with confidence. They struggle, especially shot taking, like you have throughout your career, when they're making mistakes and they're uncertain about their strategy. How do you deal with that element when you feel like you're potentially making mistakes in game? How do you go about using that constructively to improve yourself?
Yeah, I think actually interesting. I just a while ago read a post. I think CD9K has a blog where he talk about this. Like, is it better to be like a little bit too self-critical or the opposite? Like, which one is better? Is it better for your career to be a little too self-critical or like pretty relaxed? And at first I was quite strongly thought that being too self-critical is better than the opposite. But now I've actually rethought about the stuff, and I've seen like a lot of the arguments for the other side too. That like being more forgiving for yourself can be also there's a lot of merits to that. But for sure, I've been during my career pretty harsh on myself for sure. But then kind of also quite forgiving too. So I'm kind of like quickly, if I do a mistake, I'm kind of quickly, even though I get pretty mad at myself, I guess I recover from that pretty fast. So if I make a mistake, I might be mad at myself for a while, but then I get to the base level pretty fast and can move on from it. So it doesn't really linger too long in my mind, even though at first it was quite affected me quite a lot.
Two questions from that. The first one is when you're critiquing yourself and you're being a bit hard on yourself, how do you turn that into something constructive?
Yeah, it's pretty tough, good question, and because it can for sure go in a pretty bad place if you're too like you get too critical and too like harsh on yourself, and then you like shift your focus from like from improving to just like bashing yourself basically. So there's for sure like that's a difficulty with that, but I thought always that like being a little bit too self-critical is better because you kind of, at least you're not too delusional about your like skill level and like your skills in general. If you're self-critical, so I guess then I've always thought that even though it might go overboard sometimes, then it's better to like constantly like test your game, test your knowledge, so that you're not becoming delusional. So I guess that I don't know if that answers the question, but
Oh, it does. Yeah. And second part is, how do you move on quickly from that? So you mentioned you're quite good at that. What are you doing with your mind, thought wise? How do you get yourself to move on quickly?
I think like just taking like just not thinking about poker is big for me. Just like doing something else that's completely unrelated for poker, and just like try to forget about it and get like maybe get like wins somewhere else, like maybe work out or do something. Studying is great because it's kind of variance free wins, let's say. So studying is good, and then just like spend time with friends and family and do some other like hobbies that you like. So I think that's a big part that kind of helps a lot with like moving forward for sure.
Get some variance free wins. I like that one.
Yeah.
That's a good yeah, so interesting debate. I'm interested in the comments for guys watching this. Are you on the self-critical side? Do you feel like not being critical enough is more of a leak? And yeah, over to you, Rene, as well. Which side do you fall on in terms of how you've approached poker with yourself? Do you feel like you've been hard on yourself too much in the moments, or do you feel you've been too forgiving, which is lowered standards?
That's the thing, right? You're afraid that you will lower your standards when you drop your self-criticism. Well, like the evolvement that I made in my career, which in the beginning was definitely very self-critical, which came more from, I guess, an underlying fear of not being like good enough. So then if you're always self-critical, your biggest fear of not being good enough, you're kind of trying to prevent that from coming out and becoming true. So I guess at some point but that then comes with like stress, anxiety. And at some point I kind of accepted the fact that, yeah, I'm not perfect. I'm going to fuck up. I'm not going to know what to do in certain situations. And kind of just accepting that gave like a certain amount of peace. And from that peace, actually, you perform better. So there's then less need to be self-critical because you're performing better. So you naturally have less leaks to be self-critical about. So I kind of evolved more towards like more the forgiving and empathetic side. And I think it's helped a lot in terms of performance, but also just in terms of quality of life, I would say. So yeah, I would say that obviously being not self-critical as well is like obviously the other spectrum. I feel like everyone naturally is at some point, and you need to find kind of the middle, right? And some people will need to be more self-critical. But we're probably a bit biased if we have all the people that we have had on here in the podcast. They probably have all been a bit too self-critical maybe in the beginning, and they had to recalibrate to the other side. And maybe people who haven't made it were not self-critical enough.
Yeah.
You understand what I mean? So I guess the person, yeah, I don't. So for the audience listening, it's very hard to just take this advice. You really have to estimate for yourself if you're on the self-critical spectrum or not, and what prevents you, and why you're at that spectrum, right? What does that spectrum try to protect you from? Like I said, in my case, a fear of failure, for example.
I guess like also like if you're like in the other side of the spectrum, so like not critical enough, I guess it's might be harder to like crank up the volume, so to say, to be more self-critical. So I guess if you're too self-critical, it's easier to like tone it down, I guess. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's interesting.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's just interesting to see. Like I kind of that you said that you are going through the kind of journey from too self-critical to more forgiving, and I think I'm going through the same kind of same journey myself right now. So it's interesting to hear that you are kind of the same place going than me. So it's kind of interesting.
You're on the right path in my experience. You guys were chatting about the decision to, for example, play night times because you estimated that your hourly would be better there. When you accumulate more financial gain, like that was your initial goal, right? You want to make 100K, 1 million. How has your thoughts about EV and your decisions around EV changed? Because I can imagine that at some point, like, okay, so the decision to play at night is for purely financial EV, right?
Yeah.
At what point do you feel like live EV or other EVs start to become more important? So, for example, for me, I always played 9 to 5, like European time, which was not the greatest time, but at least it gave me. I feel better at that point. The social life after I'm married, I live with my wife. We can go to the bed at the same times, wake up at the same times. For me, that was a trade-off that was quite easy to make because I thought that was quite important. But definitely earlier in my career, it was just you think about EV in terms of where can I optimize my hourly and fuck the rest, right? How is that evolved, and how do you see that evolving more into the future?
Yeah, I think for sure, like I still have like I guess a little bit of the kind of scarcity mindset when it comes to that, because like in the beginning I wanted so bad to be a pro that I was like I was willing to sacrifice anything to just be a pro and be financially secure, that I think there's still some of that like programming going on in my head. I still like, even though I'm very comfortable spot right now, it's still a little bit like when I'm in the morning schedule, I'm still a little bit thinking that I should be just maximizing maybe, because I don't know when is this gonna end, when is still need to make more, that I'm more secure. And I think that's I still have that a little bit, but I guess it has I've toned it down a bit, but still is in the back of my mind that I gotta like take the opportunities I have and maximize them. But yeah, for sure, nowadays it's a little less for sure that I can still. Nowadays, I play more the morning schedule, I would say, and focus more on like other stuff than poker too, for sure.
It does become more difficult, if I speak from experience, that when when other stuff starts to matter as well, it becomes a bit more complicated, because then it's like, well, this is important, but that's also important. Your priorities are a little bit all over the place. But I do feel like that mindset enables a lot of players to accumulate a lot of success financially in poker. But then I feel like at some point, after they've accumulated already so much finances, they keep on making decisions of what they want to do in their life or how they want to spend their time on what's the EV. And I feel like at some point it kind of gets in the way of like, okay, what's the EV? You're already multimillionaire. Like, does really every decision that you make in your life has to be, but this doesn't make me enough money? It's like, if you want to go do that, go do that, right? It's like, there's maybe other things you can gain than finances. So I feel like the mindset helps people to get somewhere, but then at some point it kind of hinders them to go somewhere else, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah, for sure. And I've also had that with friends. You're like doing something with friends and they're still thinking about maybe I should be playing here, maybe I should be, and that's so bad to do that while you're spending time with your friends. So yeah, that can for sure be a big hindrance in your life outside of poker, for sure. But yeah, I don't know. It's a pretty tough balance to find. I find.
Maybe also to touch on one point that you mentioned. You mentioned that you were pretty obsessive by nature, which I guess can help you in poker, but in, for example, the topic that we're now talking about can also hinder you. How have this obsessive nature helped you and both negatively impacted your career?
Obviously, like it has helped me to put in a lot of volume and studying and a lot of the like necessary stuff to be good at something. That for sure is the biggest thing, and putting volume and putting just, and also it feels easy. Also, that's a big thing too. Like when you're obsessive about something, it's not like you don't even have to think about doing it. You just want to do it all the time, and it's not even a big deal to play 12 hours a day. For sure. For example, at the beginning, I have a couple of days where I would just wake up, play for 16 hours, and go to sleep, and that was like just a regular day. It wasn't like a big deal. But yeah, I guess that's the thing that helps. That single focused mindset will for sure help when you want to get good at something. But then on the other side, it can for sure like be quite damaging to other aspects of your life, for example, health or relationships. I've for sure noticed that like the obsessive nature have been pretty rough for my health. For example, I was sometimes like in very bad shape and like eating very bad, and also with social life, like I would just like even being in the like night schedule, I just couldn't, like friends would ask me to do something, I would just like I can't because I'm sleeping, you know. So that's for sure has been the like the negatives of being obsessive about something, and also like being so single-minded, single focus minded can like make you kind of like dismiss everything else. Like if somebody asks you to do something a little bit funny, you're just like, nope, I just don't care at all at doing anything except poker. So it can be like very tough for your relationships because you're just like want to do only one thing. So that's for sure like one of the negatives of being quite obsessive about stuff.
I mean, like it kind of comes back to right. What's your goal? I remember, for example, when my goal was pretty clear, like I want to become the best. Yes, I was playing this 9 to 5, but then, for example, at Friday night, my friends they would go out, so I would join them for dinner. Uh, Afterwards, they were going for a drink. Well, I didn't drink because my goal is to try to become the best poker player. So why would I drink? It's not in line with my goal. So there was also no conflict there.
Yeah.
So while they were getting drunk, and then usually around, so we would go for dinner, have a drink at a bar and something. And then when it was club time, so like 11, 12, I say, hey guys, this is the time I'm out. I'm gonna wake up fresh tomorrow and grind. And then they would go off to the club, you know. So I would try to balance it a bit. I would join dinner, join to the bar, not drink, but I would still have a good time. Now, obviously, you know how sometimes, you know, these nights can be legendary, and obviously I would miss them.
Yeah.
But I would take peace in the fact that usually it's like 80% of the time it's just like, oh, you know, it's a night like that. Sometimes it's legendary, and yeah, you're gonna miss that. But I think what's very important, I think it's what is very important is this obsessive nature, and is this 16-hour grind, for example, is it giving you energy, or do you feel like it's taking all your energy? Because I feel like at some point you do something, like you said, so obsessed, you're so excited about it, and it gives you a lot of energy, and it's all you want to do, then it's fine, right? But at some point, if you feel like it's starting to cost you more energy, because I feel like at some point you also mentioned you kind of started to hate poker even, that's when it kind of becomes a problem. Then you need to try to get energy somewhere else. What do you do when poker starts to really feel like a grind and it's starting to give you less energy than it used to before? How do you mix something up in your strategy? I think you mentioned also you for example, you started battling after you went through the period where you're hating poker just to trigger that more competitive spark. What do you do when the grind feels too much like a grind?
Well, I think most of the time when it starts to be too much, it's usually because I'm like, it's not because of poker, it's because I'm too tired or like I've just played too much. For example, during scoops and double scoops, that's like after that I usually take a pretty long break because I'm just playing a ton every day and can't do like 16-hour days anymore at this age. So it's mainly like a physical thing. But if I'm really don't enjoy poker, that doesn't happen too often. But usually, I just taking a break always has helped me. But also, like I try to play poker for fun, if you know what I mean. Like I don't try to I try to play poker sometimes with the main object constructive, being just having fun. Like for example, when 500 Zoom used to run, I would just like put a couple of tables of 500 Zoom and put some music on, enjoy music, and then just do whatever I want. If I want to 3-bet every hand, I will 3-bet every hand, and just like be more creative and enjoy poker more. Just not take it too like seriously and too professional mind. It's more like I guess like a creative session. I would say that has for sure helped me a lot. So you can. I actually think that's a big, very good thing that you can do. That if you feel stressed and like overwhelmed by poker, you can just like have these fun, creative sessions. Maybe play a little bit lower stakes, and then try new stuff that it's maybe outside of your normal game, and then you can also actually learn quite a lot with doing that, because you're just like you're not obsessed about winning and like making the best decision. You're kind of like it's more coming from a place of curiosity, like what can I do, what can I get away from, what can I maybe if I do this, what let's see what happens. So it can be very refreshing for your like mind and your mindset about poker. So that's for sure one thing I've done always.
What's like the most out of the box strategy you've implemented? And of the out of the box strategies, which one actually did you start using in your quote quote day-to-day grind?
I think one thing was like when I was first playing 500 Zoom, I was quite a nit, like very big nit actually, and then I think I had a pretty big downswing, and I was just like burned out quite a lot. And then I just one day decided to play way more aggressive than the usual. And then I kind of realized that people were folding and people were also bluffing. So it was kind of big reveal for me that, oh, you can you can just not have the nuts and win the pot. That's pretty awesome, you know. And then yeah, that was for sure. And then actually it changed my strategy quite a lot, because I realized that playing aggressive is actually very good. That was for sure one thing. I was just like, I remember, like I had one session where I was like, every time I played like a bottom versus small blind hand, where I was the 3-better, I would just like bet any hand, any board, and I realized that people are just falling everywhere. So that was a huge like reveal for me that actually you can just bluff and they will always fold. So that was for sure one aha moment that came from like the more creative process to poker, I think.
It sounds like you started to see or think about poker more opportunistically instead of pessimistically. Does that sound right? You started to see you kind of started to see the opportunities with hands instead of the problems.
Yeah, I guess yeah, for sure. Like yeah, and also like there were some people who were playing quite aggressively, and I was like, it's one thing also I have that has helped me during my career is I've always liked to rail games. So if I'm in the computer and I'm not playing, I usually have like some tables open from like high stakes and stuff, and just rail like the high stakes games while watching a podcast or something. And that actually has helped me a lot too. And then like one of those sessions, I think that's where I got it from. I saw some probably like Linus or somebody who was like uber aggressive at some point, and then I was, maybe if I try that, I will also play high stakes. So yeah, I guess it came from like just watching other people who were super aggressive, and then wanting to try that. I guess that was the process, I think.
So you mentioned that what you are most proud of in your poker career is that you were able to win consistently for so many years. What for you is the key or are the biggest contributors to being successful in poker over a long period of time?
I think the big thing is to being able to adapt and change your strategy over time. So there's a lot of things strategy wise that have a common goal in poker during the years, and being able to adapt to the like the new new, I guess, meta and new strategies is a big thing, because that's like, I think, the biggest thing, that you have to constantly improve, because the game is always changing. And then if you're not willing to do that, then usually those people die out if they're not willing to, for example, try new tools. There's obviously solvers have came, and there's when solvers came, there were some people who were quitting because they just didn't want to like bother with solvers and trying new stuff. So they will quit the game because they weren't willing or able to move on with the times or change with the times. So I think being like able to adapt and improve your strategy every year is a very big thing, for sure.
You mentioned the meta. What is the current meta in your opinion?
I think it for sure at high stakes it's very, very call happy. People are not folding. Not folding two bets. Usually if you bluff, you either get called or raised. So that's what I've noticed playing high stakes. So you can't really bluff because people have to be pretty careful of bluffing, because you either get raised or called. So I guess, but yeah, I think in general, I like a lot of spots are getting solved. People are like more and more spots are getting like more clearly defined that what's the correct strategy, because for example, even a couple of years ago, like there was a lot of spots where kind of people are still like freestyling, and there's like rough guidelines. But nowadays, I think there's a lot more spots that are more like more solved and more like, for example, a lot of pre-flop stuff is cemented quite a bit nowadays if you compare to even a couple of years ago. And I think the solvers have had a very big impact, and even like the GTO Wizard for sure had made a very, very big impact, like on the overall quality of every Rex game, for sure. That's a big thing.
Shout out to GTO Wizard. I'm wondering, because you earlier mentioned, that you at some point figured out that people are folding and bluffing, so you started to play way more aggressive. Now you're saying I should not be aggressive anymore, which kind of highlights the point, you have to keep adapting your game. How does the process of building strategies or improving on your strategies look like for you? You also mentioned tools. What kind of tools do you like to use, and how do you like to use them to improve your strategy?
Yeah, for sure. I use a lot of solvers, and like GTO Wizard, it has been it's very convenient and easy to use it, even if you want quick answers for some spots. Also use some Pio, and then talking with some friends is nowadays a big thing, because I didn't use, actually I was quite like a lone wolf before. I was just playing on my own, studying, watching videos. But nowadays I also talk strategy with a couple of good players. Shout out to Sunny and Matteo. But yeah, that has been actually, I've realized that that's actually a very big help to talk to other players, because they can show you some blind spots that you can't see yourself. That has been a pretty big help for me, for sure. And then yes, studying solvers and and also like railing the games is still a big part of my like process, to just watch the games. Like a lot of the high stakes games, I watch them. If I'm on the computer, I'm usually like rating at least 4 tables and seeing if there's some like stuff that's piques my interest, or some new stuff, some like good high stakes recs that I respect. See if there's some new in their game too, and then maybe look at check that stuff out myself. For example, if I see somebody use a sizing that I don't use and I haven't seen them use before, so maybe I take a look at that and try to figure out why they use this in this sizing. Look at the solver, maybe if it's not solver approved, maybe they have a exploited reason for that. But yeah, that's those are the main ways I improve today, I would say.
Yeah, when always find it interesting when a good player does something that you're like, this is weird, and then you look at the solver and it's also not solver approved. It's interesting to ask yourself the question, like, under which assumptions would this play be like the highest DV? And then you can kind of try to get into his brain, like, okay, so he assumes that this is actually the case. Now then you can double check, okay, is this actually going to be the case? You can discuss it with other players. That's indeed when poker becomes the most interesting. I think kind of obviously solvers were very good, but if you just look at the solvers, it can also kind of take away the creativity and the depth of the game. But when you look at player, why do the best deviate from solvers and where? That's when the game sort of becomes interesting again. You also mentioned that a way that you like to improve, right, was to play against better players because they kind of expose your weaknesses, right? They kind of do always the things that you don't want them to do. Sort of. I think that describes it well, right? They always put you in a tough spot. They always pick like exactly the right sizing that you didn't want to face. What was like or maybe a recent or one that really stood out to you, a weakness that was exposed or something that you saw someone do that made a very big impact on the way you approach poker?
Yeah, I think playing with I played with DavyJones a while ago, and also Enfant, Prodigy. Has those both players have for sure like a couple of times I played against them that they're shown some like exactly like you said that they just they just bet the sizing you didn't want to see. Exactly this, but like the only sizing I don't want to see, they will do it for sure. And then I'm my thumb in my mouth and think about why did I bet? But those who are for sure like I've for sure learned from those a lot. Like they'll put me in spots where I'm very out of my comfort zone and like very in an unknown area in the game tree. So, and then I would just usually I look at those spots and look at the solver and then try to figure out that maybe this is something I should look more into because it was so it came to me by surprise so much. So usually those spots are really good to look at because it kind of exposes that you don't know what to do in that spot. So it's potentially a great place for improvement when one of those spots is exposed to you, for sure.
You mentioned that one of your goals, after you've accumulated your financial goals, was to try to become the best, or at least the best you can be. You mentioned now Infant Prodigy, DavyJones, two very, very tough players. What do you think sets those guys apart from you, or maybe like obviously Linus, the other top guys? What do you think sets those guys apart from you? Like, what's the gap, and how are you planning on closing the gap?
Yeah, I think at least Enfant, I think he has very like systematic approach to studying and playing that I don't really have. Like I'm way more a freestyler, like go with the flow. Like my game plan is kind of freestyle, and I feel like a lot of the very top guys have like more of a like the structure of their game is way more, I guess, thought out and like more systematic than I have. So maybe that's something I would focus more on to maybe build a more structured way of studying and structured way of playing too. So I think I guess I have to. The good about I mean, I guess the problem with like kind of freestyling is that you have to use a lot of energy in spots that other players don't have to because they already have a game plan for that spot and they just execute in the game plan. Whereas when you freestyle, you kind of have to think about spots in game more. That if you are a more structured game plan, then you wouldn't have to because it's already pre-planned. So that for sure is something I need to improve on, I think.
What do you think? You mentioned one of the downsides. Obviously, it costs you a lot of energy. What do you think is one of the benefits by having a less standardized approach to to spots and the strategy that you want to implement?
I guess like being able to adapt in game more faster. If somebody shows something new, then you can like, and also like big part of my learning has always been also in game. So if I see something new in game, I'm more receptive maybe to it when I'm kind of like freestyle, more of a freestyle, I guess. And then I guess like maybe finding like bigger exploits when you're freestyling, you're more aware of every hand, even though it costs maybe more energy, but you're more able to look for like exploit spots when you're like just kind of freestyling. Whereas if you're more of a structure, then you're just like executing your plan and not maybe thinking about the exploit that much when you have a very structured game plan.
Yeah, I can see it. It both has benefits and downsides. I indeed agree. Like, if you're just like, oh, this is my strategy, then you kind of stop thinking, and that's a pretty big threat. I feel like the way to look at it is more you have like a certain general approach or guideline, but you should give yourself the creative freedom that when you see a nuance on the texture or a nuance based on your opponent or a nuance based on your specific hand that really wants to do something else, to kind of give yourself the creative freedom to do so. I feel like that's probably where the sweet spot lays. I remember I used to play poker with a guy, and he would have a different preflop strategy versus everyone that he would invent on the fly. Now, obviously, if even there you have to put a lot of decisions. Now, he was not a very high volume grinder. He was very good, very high win rate, but not a very high volume grinder for obvious reasons. When making decisions in hands and at the tables, what for you are some of the most important things you take in consideration, and what do you think is something players assign way too much importance towards when making decisions?
I think there's quite a big difference like playing with the Rex and Fish. Like if you're playing against Rex, it's kind of fine to just like play quite normal game and not like focus on exploits too much against Rex. And then I think that's people do that very well. Like they're playing against Rex, the game like normal solid game plan. But then I think against Fish you should go kind of very bananas, because there's like I like to say there's like 5 different shades of regs, but then there's like hundreds of shades of fish. So there's so many different types of fish that you can tailor your strategy very well if you're very receptive and are looking for like the exploits. And also I think you should take a lot of notes on fish, because there's so many different types and they're like very specific leagues that they can have, that if you don't pay too much attention, you can miss that. So I think that's like not paying enough attention on like fish is probably the biggest thing that I think most decks probably miss, and there's a lot of EV to gain there, I would say.
And this kind of the threat that we just talked about, right? Of like, oh, this is my strategy. I will execute this strategy. And you kind of mistaking in new information about Villain's range and about what he actually has. And like, oh, wait, but if he has this, then I should probably do that. Whereas if you think different, like this is my strategy, and you're not wondering like, well, what the fuck does this guy actually have? You know, your train of thought goes into a different direction. I completely agree. Versus Fish, I do the most crazy shit, basically. Whereas but it also makes sense if we think about like energy management from your session as a whole.
Yeah.
The bigger your opponent deviates from theory, the more energy you should give this guy, because apparently if you start deviating from your solid standardized game plan, it's gonna give you EV. So I guess to give a little bit of tip to the audience, estimate your table. The guy who plays the best, just play your game plan, try to not lose, right? And the worst your opponent gets, the higher return of investment on your energy if you think about how to maximally exploit him.
Yeah, I think that's very well put. Like that's exactly hit the nail in the head. That was very, very well put. I agree with that. Yes. Also, actually, I've noticed that I've actually kind of have problems with myself with that, because I've like sometimes played like only Rex for a while, and then I've maybe played heads up, and like during heads up matches, I try to really play a very solid game, and then I play some six max after that, and still in the like playing against the Rec mindset. That then I missed big spots against fish, and actually can also make pretty big mistakes when I kind of assume some things about certain fish that are very wrong, because I'm in the kind of reg battling mindset, you know. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's really hard to suddenly switch your brain between the two. Like, especially if you have like two tables of rec battles going on, and then you have a table with the fish. The table with the fish is easily like ignored. And then only
Yeah.
like sometimes I have that like 45 minutes later. Wait, who is this guy actually that I'm playing against? Oh shit, I've already been playing 45 minutes on this table, and I have no clue how I'm gonna extract the maximum value out of this recreational here. Like, what happened? Okay, apparently I need to refocus. Yeah, that's I think in general solid advice. What has been the talking about advice? What has been the best, but also the worst advice you remember receiving about improving your poker career?
Mm. Yeah. Let's see. What is the best? I think the best probably like not to be too results oriented. That's very tough in poker, obviously, but trying to, and it's very unnatural to not think about results, but that's for sure like trying to be more and think about the bigger picture and long term instead of like the short term results. That's for sure like one thing I would advise everybody to do, is to try to think about the big picture and the long term career of yours. So not to get too fixated on the short term results is for sure a big thing that I think it's always has helped me, and that's I think it's very important. And bad advice, I don't know. That's a weird one, because I probably just ignored it. I don't know.
What do you think is bad advice generally given that you hear in the poker industry that you don't really agree with?
Mm, I guess just like thinking that like poker is all about the strategy, that it's only about like playing good. I think a lot of the things outside of poker are super important for your performance. So like sleep, like ignoring sleep, ignoring like health is I think that's a big mistakes that are kind of ignored. It's like the importance of those are not magnified, I would say. So it's only about I think the most advice is only about the strategy, when like a lot of the big improvements you can make is just like getting the sleep, nutrition, and like your mindset also in a very good place. I think that's a big thing that it's kind of ignored, so it's not emphasized too much, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And actually, I feel like this sets higher stakes players apart. Just their ability to execute what they know to a high level consistently. Because nowadays, like you can talk strategy with a guy playing 100 and L, 200 L. You're like, hey, this guy knows his shit. But they are like,
Yeah.
wait, why are you playing 100 to 200 and L? And then you see his hands actually and his performance actually in game, and it's like lifestyle factors around it, which is basically hindering for him to put this knowledge into practice. Or they sometimes know too much, or they overthink. There's a lot of reasons why players stay stuck at lower and mid stakes, and very often I agree with you. It's not necessarily technically related. Technically related, there's a lot of good information out there, and it's not necessarily anymore what sets the higher stakes players apart, I would say. Would you agree?
Yeah, for sure. I think there's also like I sometimes like a few years ago there was a couple of players that I was playing like at 5 and Zoom that I thought were really, really good, then I was always surprised that why wouldn't they move up? Like, why are you playing this game? Because you're so good that you could move up. But I think that a lot of those players have the kind of it's about the kind of mindset around moving up, and they have like kind of like mindset problems regarding to moving up. So it's not at all about the technical game. The technical game is very good, but they just have problems with like other aspects when it comes to moving up. So I think yeah, that's a big thing that can hinder your I mean progress in poker for sure. Like the mindset aspect of the game for sure. That's a big thing.
To give some concrete things for our audience, because when they're listening, they're like, okay, I should work on my mindset. Okay, it's quite fluffy, quite broad. You also mentioned the importance of not being results oriented. What are like some concrete things that you've implemented that really helped you, for example, not be results oriented or improve your mindset?
I think like one thing is I think it's really good that I have sometimes done, but I think I should do more is just like journaling, just taking notes of like how you feel and notes of your mood while you're playing. So if you notice you have some kind of negative emotions, negative like problems while you're playing, you should take note of that and like be more self-aware and more conscious about like about your mindset and your general feelings while you're playing. So for example, if your problem is moving up, so maybe you take a shot and then like take notes like how you feel while you're taking a shot, then becoming more aware of how you feel while taking a shot, and then kind of trying to get to the root cause why you're feeling these feelings. Maybe you get maybe it's about financial insecurity that you just it's too much money for you, and then you kind of can trace where that starts from. Like maybe it's something out of childhood. You came from poor family, so taking big shots can be that's why it feels so you get so emotional about that, because it's you have some baggage from your childhood or something like that. So just becoming more aware of these things is for sure a big thing. So I think journaling can help a lot with that, because a lot of the emotions and things you feel are kind of like you don't even remember often those after they have happened. So maybe you take a shot, you feel uncomfortable, then you move on and you forget about it. So being more conscious and aware of I guess the negative emotions that you feel on a daily basis when it comes to poker, I think that's a big thing, and I have done a bit, and for sure should do more.
I think
Just
the
being
key
more
here,
aware of them.
I think the key here is the curiosity. And the way I see it, like if you start to become reflective of yourself, because people do, you know, or at least many people, they do look at their own games, right? They try to analyze their own stats, try to look for briefs, but they forget to reflect on what's going on inside of them, right? And
Yeah.
you can gather so much information and so much knowledge about yourself, about your C game, B game, A game, about, hey, I'm feeling frustrated in this situation. What triggered it? Why does it trigger it? These are all information that you need to gather, because they will show you what you can improve. And to maybe touch on, like you mentioned, a good guy playing 5 on Zoom. Well, maybe he had an experience moving up, burned himself, and he's like now trying to avoid experiencing those feelings again. And maybe he's not aware of this, but this, and he comes up with a bunch of excuses why you should play 500 and Zoom instead, right? And he believes them.
Yeah.
He believes them. But basically what he's doing is he's avoiding uncomfortable feelings that arise when he's moving up. And these are like examples of indeed like things that are beyond the technical game. Like the technical game is only what 30-40% of in the end what actually makes a good player.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely I think a lot of valuable advice. It's kind of more in Adam's street. Adam, Severi mentioned journaling. Sure, I mean you've probably tried all habits at some point. You're a big fan of journaling?
I am. I think journaling's a very effective way to understand your own thought patterns. I feel like journaling really sticks for some people. Other people find it very challenging to go into. I feel like meditation can serve the same purpose of observing thought patterns, knowing your inner dialogue. But yeah, you cover some really good topics there in terms of how to go through the process of improving your mindset. And exactly what you mentioned, like self-awareness is the gateway. You've got to become aware of your thoughts, how you feel, and how you behave in a very wide range of situations. So when you've got a clear goal, let's say it's moving up stakes, making more money in poker, you've got to look at how you're thinking, feeling, and behaving when you're trying to move towards that, when you're taking actions that should move you towards it. And most people don't want to do this form of observation because you've got to look into yourself, look into your own operating system, pull the hood up on the brain and look in all the cobwebs and the baggage that you've collected over the years, all the fears, insecurities, and you've got to do some work to recorrect that. But I think if you can go down the path of going, I'm going to observe myself. I'm going to observe how I think and feel in situations. And yeah, and journal on it is the best way to get something out of your mind, stop overthinking about it, and just get on paper. I like to journal with questions. So I'll find a feeling and I'll go, why do I feel this way? And I'll just freestyle. And then another question come, why do I think this is happening? And I just keep going, why? And each why takes you deeper and deeper and deeper. And finally, you get to a fear, you get to an insecurity, you get to a lack of confidence, you get to a icky part where you want to go, right, I'm done now, close the journal, I'm done with that for today. But that's when you've got to really understand that and go, right, from this, and I'm quite an action guy, so from my kind of endpoint when I get somewhere, I go, okay, with this new knowledge, what am I going to do different? What action can I change going forward that allows me to step into this? And often it's taking a baby step towards discomfort. So let's say you're a little bit scared of shot taking because you got bad tolerance of risk, you've noticed that you feel fear, insecurity, you've got a great win rate when you're shot taking, but every time you try to shot take, you feel that feeling and you move away from it. Now your goal is to build a little bit of a sample size of going into that fear. Remind yourself you got the tools, you're going to be okay, you can handle this adversity, and almost like a bit of exposure therapy to that risk, and then observe it. What happened when I went into that state? Oh, I freaked out. Interesting, that's very good. And like you mentioned, Rene, curiosity. Like if you have a curious mind to how you respond in situations, then you put yourself in more and more situations with more curiosity. You just build all this data back going, I act this way in that scenario. You put me in a nightclub with my friends, I act that way. You trigger me at a poker table, I act this way. And over time, you build that collection of how you're acting as defaults, and you go, right, which of these do I want to change? Which of them do I want to upgrade? And yeah, you'll see like the work begins. That's when mindset work really starts getting practical, when you start to unravel the kind of baggage in your automated behaviors. You start to go, right, I want to be a higher performer. How do I start to change some of these around?
I think also to link it back to what we talked about earlier, the self-criticism. If you try to become self-aware, but you're very self-critical, I think that's when there's that's kind of when the problem is. It's indeed like I think you said, interesting. That is it, right? Whereas other one is like, oh shit, no, I shouldn't have that. You say interesting. That's a completely different reaction to you having observed like a certain pattern within yourself. So I would say lose the criticism and implement more empathy, curiosity, interest. I think that just self-awareness is not enough. You need the others as well, because then else you become aware and only walk around more frustrated and more angry at yourself of the things you just became aware of.
Yeah, I like
Very
that.
true,
I like
yeah.
that. Yeah, the curiosity is a great way to put it. And I think when you're in a curious mindset, you are not judging anything. You're just like trying to find out stuff. So if something happens, it's not good or bad. It's just like, that's what that is. So for sure, I think like curious mindset is very, very it's more like a neutral. So you're not judging yourself too hard when you're
if you jump in and take a shot and you just go in with no expectations whatsoever, no fear, you're just like, listen, I'm gonna take a shot now. I'll see what happens. I'm very curious. I have my pen and paper out. I'll write down how I feel right now. You go sit and you sit there and observe. You'll see that experience will be completely different than if you're like, oh shit, we're gonna take a shot. This is very important. And I hope this is gonna go well. It's completely different. It's basically you're setting yourself up for disaster. Whereas if you just go in like, well, let's see what happens. Shot.
Yeah.
You can even hear it at the tone of the voice, right? Like, oh.
Yeah, it's way more lighter. Like, if you're like, I hope, crossing your fingers, I hope this is gonna go well. I mean, that's such a bad place to be mindset-wise.
Yeah, I think also remind yourself it's never too serious. It's all practice. There's never a final exam. There's always a rerun. Don't let anyone fool you. This is all just a game. It's not a serious thing. Like, if you build this up to a big thing in your head, that I need to get the shot take, I need to make this money, you've blown it out of proportion. So yeah, try to get a curious mindset of learning to observe everything, and then also like acceptance, some sort of watching what you're seeing in your internal dialogues and accepting that's what's unfolding right now, knowing that you can change that later, but you've got to accept who you are currently. You've got to like work with your current operating system. You can't run away from it. You can't just crash the system, system reboots and install something new. You've got to go, right, this is me right now. Cool, this is the baggage I've collected. All right, some of this really sucks. All right, this is where I'm at. How do I move forward from that? So yeah, I think all these topics have really intertwined very, very well, because the self-critiquing is where this could go astray. If someone observes but also critiques himself too much, that will go off the other side of the spectrum, as we mentioned before, which is probably many players listening can do that. So yeah, make sure you have compassion and curiosity.
It's
also
this
conversation a little bit.
It's also actually about like accepting reality, because for example, let's say I'm playing and I make a mistake that I think I shouldn't be making, so there's already like some conflict between what's the reality. I'm making this mistake, but I think that I shouldn't be making it because I think greater of myself. That's also kind of where like the frustration comes in. Whereas if you make a mistake and you're like, well, apparently I'm maybe not as good as I think I am, or apparently in the compromised state I am at this moment because I've been playing already for 5 hours, or I have more tables than normal. This is apparently a mistake that I should expect that can happen, right? Because if I go in and make a mistake that I expect that can happen, because I know like, oh, wait, I have 5 tables, I'm already playing five hours into my session, some mistakes are likely to happen, and I make the mistake, I'm like, likely to happen. Whereas if I'm just sitting there, I'm like, oh, I shouldn't be making a mistake, man. Come on, you're better than this. Yeah, you see again with the tone, it's completely different.
Yeah. Also, like that, if you're trying to, that you said it well, that if you're trying to kind of ignore reality or fight reality, you're never gonna win. Like if you're trying to force reality to be something that it's not, you can never do that. That's an impossible task. So that's
But then I guess
just
the ego
accepting
comes
the
back, right,
reality.
Adam? The ego is back. The ego doesn't want the reality to be the truth, that you're still making these mistakes while you know, quote, quote, that you shouldn't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you look at most emotions come from resisting reality. Event happens, you don't like it, you don't want to accept it, so you resist it. And the emotion is the kind of energy you feel as that resistance. And the reason is, as you mentioned, the ego is very fragile. The ego likes to be smart. The ego likes to be correct. The ego likes to win. So when the ego gets threatened in the short term, rather than you just going, oh, I just lost a pot, no big deal, the ego starts to go, wait a second, I can't be wrong. I'm better than this. And it starts to create a narrative that has you pushing back on reality. Now you're fighting with an event that happened, saying, I shouldn't have made a mistake, but the event just happened, you did. So newsflash, wake up, here we are. So yeah, I think it's just watching those things and just playing the game of life with a less serious tone. I think it's really important to realize like we're all incomplete humans. We're all going through our own struggles, insecurities, and don't make it a big deal that you're going through these experiences. That anyone listening, or even us as coaches, we go for experiences, and you've got to watch it, observe it, and not get too caught up in it, and allow yourself to accept your insecurities, accept the things you're working on that you may not like about yourself, accept reality, as Rene said. Yeah, these are hard things to do, but this is the game of life. And once you tap into this every day is learning, because you're learning about yourself, you learn about life, and you're making progress.
I hope you guys are enjoying this episode. Quick announcement, because we have just opened up early access to the Mechanics of Poker 3.0 coaching program. That's right, we've opened up 10 spots. You can apply over at mechanicsofpoker.com or use the link in the description down below if you want to work with me and Adam and have us help you make more progress in your poker career. The Mechanics of Poker 3.0 includes all goodness that was in previous versions of the Mechanics of Poker, various session reviews of players in our community, and leak finding tools which can help you spot and fix leaks in your game. Open during the next week, 10 spots available. Apply now and maybe one is yours. But without further ado, let's get back into more goodness in today's episode.
So yeah, on this topic, I want to actually transition the conversation into lessons learned. And I want to know 3 lessons you've learned on different topics. So first one is around poker itself. And I want to know one thing you've learned about poker now that you wish you had learned sooner in your career.
Yeah, I think it's the same thing that I said about short-term results, that you shouldn't be too fixated on the short-term results. Like that's, and think about more the bigger picture, even in poker and even in your life, like at how much if you have a downswing, like this is not a in terms of maybe this week it feels bad, but in terms of your whole life, like this downswing, you don't even remember this downswing at some point. So try to think about the bigger picture, and the long-term bigger picture is something I wish I would have thought earlier. That it's about the big picture and not be too fixated on the day-to-day like short-term results. That's one thing for sure.
What is a big lesson or the biggest lesson that poker has taught you about yourself as a person?
I think just being, I think it's in general like a competitive arena is good to kind of expose your weaknesses so you can kind of living in reality when you're in a competitive setting and you're worse than your opponent, it kind of, you can't really hide that, you can't run away from that, so it kind of teaches you to face reality what is it, even though it can be hard and can be easy to not want to accept that like we just talked about. But I think that's one thing for sure, like being more like accepting and aware of the reality and trying to make decisions based on reality rather than be delusional about your skills and so on, I think.
Yeah. And what has poker taught you a valuable lesson about life as a big picture concept, or any idea that's stuck with you that will stick with you long term?
I think like just like kind of learning how to let go of trying to control everything, because you can't really control, there's a lot of things you can't really control. You can't control how the session is going today. So that's really good for, I think, in life in general, because there's also going to happen stuff in your life that you can't control, even though you would like to control it. So I guess poker helps with that. It helps with coming to that conclusion that or realization that you can't control everything, and kind of let go of trying to control everything. That's a big thing, I think, and then be more peace with that as well.
Great lessons. Stoicism 101, that. Another question I've got for you is around, what do you believe is the ceiling for most people? So let's say someone's already into poker. Do you feel like anyone who is committed can make it to high stakes?
It's kind of a very difficult question, because it's kind of what does committed mean? Does it mean that you're willing to sacrifice everything for poker?
Yes.
I think then yes, but what does it even mean to sacrifice everything? Does it mean that you're only doing nothing but poker? I guess then if somebody is like is not in school, not in job, he's only focused in for poker, I guess then a lot of people can make it. But I guess there's also like some things that are not really talked about, like intelligence is a big one. If you're like more intelligent than an average person, you have for sure a bigger chance and bigger edge to make it in anything. So if you, I guess, to be more realistic, I don't think everybody can do it, but if you're decently intelligent and you're willing to make poker your number one priority, then I think a lot of people could make it to at least play high stakes like as a professional, I think.
I like that answer. Very thought out. I've got no pushback.
But
I think it's
yeah, but
honestly.
I think also that I think most people aren't willing to make that sacrifice, and I think it's not meant for everybody, and as it shouldn't be. It's not a, like if you're not willing to sacrifice everything for poker, it's not like it doesn't mean it's a bad thing. Like maybe you just don't want to do it. You want more to maybe spend time with friends and family, and that's more and other things are more important, that's not that's good too. If it's good for you, then it's great. You shouldn't like force if you don't want to do it. But I think you need to put in a lot of effort if you want to be good at poker. So, and I guess in theory, a lot of people could make it, but in practice, I think a lot of people don't even want it that much. I think that's a kind of a thing that I don't know if you know Brandon Carter. He's like this. He's like a businessman. He mainly, I think he sells like training courses. He's a really good shape. But he had a video where he talked about like to know if you want something, instead of asking like what do you need to do to get something, you should ask instead like what would it take that it would be impossible you to fail that then it gives a more like a realistic, I think, realistic view of the situation, because there's a lot of things that people want and want to do. Like for example, it would be nice to know Spanish, but what I have done for learning Spanish is I had a Duolingo for 1 week with my friend, and we did a couple of lessons, and that was it. So it would be nice. A lot of things would be nice. It would be nice to learn Spanish. It would be nice to be in a really good shape, for example. But am I willing to do the things that would make it impossible to me to not be in good shape? No. So then you have to be more like self-aware and realistic about what do you actually want. So if you look at poker, for example, that if you should ask yourself that am I willing to do a lot of the things that it would make it impossible to me not to become a professional, then I think it gets more of a realistic view what it actually takes.
I like that a lot. I like it so much. Yeah, you gotta know what you gotta want it enough, and you gotta be willing to do what it takes for as long as it takes. And then in that willing category comes at what cost? At what cost? What are the trade-offs? Let's say you want to have six-pack abs. It's like, all right, great. What are you willing? Do you want it? How much are you willing to sacrifice? And what's it going to cost in terms of sacrifices? So yeah, I think those things, if you can pair them together, then yes, a lot of people have an opportunity to reach high stakes, but they're hard things to get in alignment. Some players just won't want it enough. A lot of players and people won't want what they say they want enough. They'll get to some milestone and they'll ease off the accelerator. And then many, if not the majority, won't be willing to do what it takes for as long as it takes. So yeah, I like that caveat. That was good wisdom. There was a thorough answer. Well, probably the best answer I've ever heard to that question. So good job on that one. Next question is a bit of a different topic. What would you say is the best investment that you've made in your poker career, either in terms of money or in terms of time?
I think like for sure, like some courses have been. I think Upswing had a couple of courses, and I think in general, like coaching is for sure something like you should invest more. I never had a coach, but I've bought some courses from Upswing, for example. I had this like a long time ago. I think Kanu and Echuka Poker had courses. So that was for sure, like, even though it was pretty expensive, I think like a good course or a good coach can like cut so much time off your learning curve, because they can show you stuff, and they also, especially a coach, can like show you like a lot of the big blind spots that you have that you can by definition can't see yourself because there are blind spots. So I think that's one thing too that I guess I would give an advice, that having good people around you and like good coaches, if you can find a good coach, that can be a very big thing for your career for sure.
What do you think is the biggest obstacle for people who want to, who don't pull the trigger and buy a course or take on a coach? Why do you feel players might listen to your advice but not move towards that?
I get why people don't want to buy, because there's a lot this kind of scare. They're scared that because they often can be a lot of money, and then don't think if it's worth it. But if you can find a good coach, it for sure is worth it. It's hard to, again, we talked about like long-term, short-term thinking. So I think in this case, two people are very short, myself included, by the way, very short-sighted when they think about buying a coach, because they think that, oh, it's a investment, big investment, $100,000. But if you think about in long term, if you're serious about improving, it's a big, great investment in long term if you have a good coach. But then I guess the problem is that how do you find a good coach? So that's I guess the difficult part of it.
Yeah, I think the long-term mindset is a big factor. Like if you could really stop and think about the compounding effect of having a good course or a good coach to increase your win rate for the next 5-10 years of your career that you could use, to play higher games with a higher win rate, it would be almost no-brainer to take on a coach and to find the coach, even if it takes 4 or 5 different attempts. But I think most players kind of want that short return on investment. They want to spend X dollar and get X dollar back in a very short period of time. And maybe also they don't maybe believe that they could get the benefits from a coach. Maybe their ego wants to protect them and say, I can learn it myself. I don't need help. I can do this all my own way. How do you battle that, actually? You said you haven't taken on a coach personally, but you've done a lot of courses. How do you battle that kind of the ego's drive to want to do things itself and to solve its own problems? How have you battled that over the years?
Yeah, that's a difficult thing for sure. Like I for sure have some ego myself with that. That I want to do it myself and kind of I don't need a coach. But it's not really like if somebody is like it's the ego is a big thing that you kind of think that you can do everything by yourself. But if you think about it, it's kind of stupid that like if you take some skill that you're very novice at, for example, let's take Spanish for example. I mean, in Spanish, learning Spanish, you wouldn't just like do it yourself and not have a teacher to teach you. I mean, in that case, it's very easy to see that a teacher would be a big help for your improvement. But when it comes to poker, it's kind of like you think you can do it by yourself, and so maybe get perspective on that. Like you don't know everything, and you don't need to know everything. And if uh, somebody knows more than you, it's not a threat to you if you ask somebody for help. But yeah,
Yeah,
I agree.
exactly.
It's difficult battling with your ego sometimes, for sure.
Yeah, I think as well, it's acknowledging like maybe you could have done it yourself. Maybe you could learn Spanish by yourself with Duolingo apps and figure it out. Maybe you could reach high stakes just studying yourself in your basements. But it makes your life a lot easier and it makes the journey faster by taking on someone who's walked that path before, who knows the skills. If I want to get good at tennis, I could play tennis every day with my friends, or I could get 2 hours a week coaching with a really good coach, and my exponential growth curve of learning is going to be so much better. Doesn't mean I couldn't have got good at tennis just by playing tennis, but there's a better way. There's a faster path, and the ego doesn't need to be threatened as long as the ego is okay with getting better and not having to do it the hard way, so to speak. It's so funny, the ego sometimes likes the hard path. It likes things that I do myself sometimes. I'll take the hardest path to a goal sometimes. I'm like, it could have been a lot easier. The ego wanted to be hard just so you could like give yourself a hard work stamp at the end of it. But yeah, it's just interesting to observe that. And I think some players feel a lot of resistance. Obviously, all of us feel less resistance than the average person based on the choices we've made in our lives. But some people feel a lot of resistance in that area and they can't move forward, even if they might see the benefits. So yeah, I think it's good to discuss that.
Yeah.
All right, final question from me. This is a bit of a challenging one. What is something that you've had a hard time accepting you were wrong at over the course of your career?
I think that there was a couple of like strategic things that I had a hard time letting go. I think one thing was like I had this idea in some c-bet spots where I would rather c-bet like a hand without the backdoor flush draw. because it would be an easy fold against the check raise. But then when I looked at the solvers, it was the exact opposite. So it would rather see bet hand with a backdoor flush draw than without, because it was like it was blocking more continuous. So that was a kind of one thing that I had a hard time accepting. Like the solver was kind of like exact opposite, suggesting exact opposite thing that I came up with myself. But then that was one thing I got away from. I think that was for sure one of them. But yeah, I think yeah, I guess like some of the solvers, that's for sure. Like, because when I started playing in 2016, so people, there was not a lot of, I think Pio, I don't remember when Pio came, but it wasn't widely used. And so everybody was kind of freestyling and doing like figuring out and making their own strategies. So I guess when solvers kind of became more prevalent, I had a little bit of tough time like accepting some of the answers with the solvers. I guess that was I guess one of the harder pills to swallow, that my own thought up strategies weren't liked by the solver. I guess that's one thing.
Yeah, interesting time solvers coming out to kind of stress test your ideas and strategies, and some of them you might have got attached to that you thought were great players, and now you're like, wait a second, solver's saying this is a bad play. Either the solver's wrong or I'm wrong. Let's go to fight with the solver. Rene, I'm guessing for you as well, you came up with your own strategies. How did you come to terms with things that you maybe were doing incorrectly, and how did you learn to move past them without too much resistance?
You just node lock the solver until it does the thing that you initially thought was correct. I'm sure you've done this as well, Severi. Am I wrong?
Yeah, and also like if the solver is like mixing something, like it's mainly a fold, but sometimes call, and you call, so you're like, let's see. You see, it's sometimes calling, so it's fine. But if it's the opposite, then you're always like biased towards your own action.
Yeah, if
If
something
it's a
is only
mix,
20% and you want it to be 100%, you say, 20% at least some of the time. And when it's
yeah,
only
it's fine.
20% and you want it to be 0, you say it's only 20%, so it's close to 0.
Yeah, that's for sure a thing I have done. I think that's quite common though.
To
But
be
yeah.
fair, to give him a more serious answer, like, yes, I've like throughout my career I used a lot of solvers, but I'm actually more in the Severi camp. I was always because I was already playing high stakes in small environments when solvers became more popular, and I was playing against guys who were using solvers a lot, and I learned from playing against other guys, so I was indirectly taking a lot of solver strategies, but I learned it more through someone did something, just like Severi explained. Someone did something, I was like, that's pretty interesting. Why would that be good? Or when would that be good? And then I would start to implement this type of stuff. And actually that helped me, because then I saw people would implement the concept, and then they would have just copied the solver and implement somewhere else. But I'm like, yeah, but here it makes no sense. Because I didn't just see I just saw it and I experienced it like, this is uncomfortable when you do it in this situation, but it's not uncomfortable when you do it in the other situation. So I kind of, by not really studying the solvers the way maybe the other guys were, I was kind of protected from the threats. I actually started using solvers way more when I started to teach, because people wanted to see the solver output. So I was like, okay, that'll show you what the solver does. Now, obviously, throughout that process, many things that I was doing, the solver agreed with, but there were a lot of things that it didn't agree with. And that's indeed like sort of a hard pill to swallow. Then, especially in some situations, I say, yeah, okay, but if you node lock, this is not actually what, so then you get the data and then you put the data in the solver. And then sometimes that was actually true. I used an exploitive strategy because the response of GTO was not the way that the pool was responding. So then my strategy would still be valid. But obviously there were also certain moments where I was just like, I thought about this completely wrong. But I don't recall having a lot of resistance necessarily to something. I in general, I never really had a lot of resistance to other people saying or thinking different about something. I don't know. I just always felt like, oh, well, if it's something I'm doing wrong and you point me out something better, then by all means point it out, because it's beneficial. I don't know. I never really had resistance in this area. Severi, I'm curious, what would you describe as the high point in your career?
I think just playing high stakes was super cool for me. And then I think one thing was like last year I won the 5K W Coupe 6 max event. That was, I think that was kind of the first time that made me feel that poker is kind of real. If you know what I mean. It always felt like a little bit like I'm just clicking buttons and numbers on the screen happen, and it doesn't really feel like this is a job or like profession. But when I won the tournament, first of all, it was like quite a grind, and I was super happy how I played the heads up. It was I think the final table was like 2 to 3 hours, and the heads up was like kind of similar. So it was a very long heads up match, and it was like a short stack. So I'm not super studied in short stack heads up. So it was I had had to use a lot of energy to think, because it was kind of a new game for me to play like short stack heads up. So and antis in tournaments. So I was super happy how I played that tournament, that heads up especially. And then I got a trophy in the mail, so that was kind of cool and made me feel like, okay, now this poker kind of seems a real thing,
Yeah, something concrete, right? Like a trophy. We don't have it in cash games.
Yeah. So I guess that's the biggest kind of one of the greatest moments in my career for sure, because like you said, like the crash grind is kind of like monotonous. Every day you slowly improve, slowly increase your stakes, slowly increase your win rate. So kind of blends in with every stake. So there's not a lot of big moments, I think.
Did you experience any pressure heads up? I mean, it's probably the highest stakes you've ever played a heads up match in.
Yeah, for sure. Like I think I was so in the zone, so I wasn't really thinking about it. But its tournaments are so stupid, because you kind of at some point you're playing like your highest stakes, random high stakes heads up sit and go for like infinite money, infinitely bigger money than you normally play. So tournaments are stupid like that. But I think in the moment didn't really feel. I was so focused, just like playing my best, and kind of just hit after I won it. After the heads up, it was quite intense. So I was so focused on just playing. So during the heads up, I wasn't really feeling much pressure, I think.
What are you currently working on when it comes down to poker strategy? What are you excited for? So let's say I'll message you tomorrow and say, Severi, let's do a coach, let's do a strategy call. What are we gonna discuss?
I think I've like recent couple of years I started to play quite a lot of more heads up, and I've started to enjoy it a lot. I've battled it quite a lot with a couple of guys. Sometimes maybe against people I probably shouldn't play, but it's been a learning experience. I think like heads up is super interested in heads up right now, like learning playing heads up and learning heads up. I think that's I've studied quite a bit heads up at the moment.
What is it that heads up gives you that 6 max lacks?
I think my favorite format is actually 3 max. So 3 max
Oh,
against Rex.
I
That's
agree. I
probably
agree.
my
3 max is the nicest. Yes. I agree with you this one.
like that's my favorite format, but you can't really play it that often, because either people join or fish join, so you can't really play 3 max very often.
These fish always get in the way. Annoying.
Or there's some or some regs join. So I would like to play 3 max a lot, but you often don't get to play it that much. But heads up is nice, because you're always like, it's always heads up, at least if you're playing like heads up Zoom or heads up tables. And I guess that's like very competitive format because you play a lot of hands against Rex. So it's I think I think the competitive aspect is what drives me today a lot, and that's why I like to play heads up more today than I used to.
How do you see the future of poker, and how do you see yourself in it?
I actually I see a lot of people being quite pessimistic maybe about poker, but I tend to disagree a bit. I think poker is doing quite well considering like a lot of the regulations and stuff. I think, for example, the reason why stars has kind of gone down is because like they have taken quite a lot of hits from like a regulated side. Like there's a lot of countries can play. There's the deposit limits are lowered a lot. So I think the problem with like liquidity in a lot of sites, it's not because people don't want to play. It's because people like there's barriers to playing that didn't used to be there. So I think, and you can see this in a lot of live stops, for example, like a lot of the numbers are growing, like a lot of live stuff. So people are willing to play, people want to play poker, but it's not, as long as that side is good, I think poker has a pretty good future. As long as people want to play, are excited to play, and the game is exciting, I think poker has a pretty good future. So I think the problem nowadays, a lot of the regulations and stuff are like the biggest obstacle for poker right now. And what comes to bots, like I guess that's also a bit of bots, and like RTA is has been a discussion point, but I don't think I think a lot of the sites are pretty strict. At least the sites I play on, for example, I actually got on Stars. I got an email that my account was freezed, and I need to record myself playing.
That's a compliment, huh? That's a compliment.
Yeah, I think
You
that's a
play too
compliment.
well.
So at least it's good to know that they're taking it pretty seriously. So at least Stars, I don't know other sites. There's like ACR and Ignition. I don't play on them, but I've heard there's quite a looser, probably the security side, but not sure about that. And yeah, but yeah, I'm pretty optimistic, I would say, about the future of poker.
What would you like the main takeaway for our audience to be from our conversation?
I think it's just enjoy life. Enjoy life. Not try not to take life too seriously, and not try not to take poker too seriously, and just enjoy the moment and enjoy the fact that you can even play poker for a living, or if you're aspiring to play, at least you have a chance to try to go pro, and enjoy the ride. I think that's
Yeah, it's for sure a ride. So, I mean, you hopped on, you might as well enjoy it, right?
Yeah.
Or find a way to enjoy it. Adam, any final questions for Severi before we let him go?
No, I would thank you for your time. It's been an amazing conversation. I think that ended it very well. Try to be happy on the journey, whatever you're trying to achieve. And yeah, we appreciate you spending the last 3 hours with us.
Thanks a lot. This was an enjoyable conversation, and yeah, thank you.
Great conversation with Severi. Adam, what are your main takeaways from our pod?
Yeah, we went very deep on some very important topics, which I don't think we've discussed before on previous podcasts. That was very exciting and interesting. One of them was about your inner critical voice, that self-critique that we all have, and when that's pushed too far. We had a good debate on when self-criticism is a good thing, when it's a bad thing, and when you push it to its extremes. And yeah, I think a lot of people can learn the lesson, as you mentioned, Rene, as well, of being more compassionate towards yourself and using self-criticism as, yes, it can drive you to take action to improve yourself, but also it can just lead you to self-bash yourself and to not make progress. So you got to find a way to be kind to yourself, to learn from mistakes, and to not overly dial that up. And if it is too high, to dial down that that self-criticism. Next one is like self-awareness, and we went quite deep into this as well, how to work on your mindset by observing your thoughts, your feelings and behaviors, and then again, not critiquing, not judging too much, but like unraveling all your patterns of thinking, and then finding ways to move past them, which I thought was a very interesting conversation. Then we talked about results, focusing on results and not focusing on results. One of his biggest lessons he's learned in his life. And he has a very easy rule of checking only buy-ins. So he's shot taking higher stakes. He doesn't judge himself, doesn't put too much weight that he's lost 10K buy-in rather than a 1K buy-in, and just tries to remind himself in the long term that what he's trying to do, achieve success in the long term, be his best version of himself, and yeah, not getting too attached to the short-term metrics. Easier said than done. I know a lot of people listening will be like, yeah, I wish I didn't have to care about results, but it's a big part of how I think. So a lot of work for players to do there to distract that. And then we talked a lot about curiosity and always being curious, always trying to learn. I classed him as a bit of a sponge in terms of always absorbing knowledge from players around him. Reminds me of a concept from Zen Buddhism, which is called beginner's mind. And it's about always going in there with an open, curious mind, always, even if you're at an advanced level, going as a beginner, try to learn things, try to be the person who's absorbing information, don't take things too seriously. And then his final part of words were, have fun, enjoy the journey. So yeah, very, very rounded conversation. We covered some big topics, which I very much enjoyed. How about yourself, Rene? What were some of the main things you took from it?
Yeah, the curiosity was a good one. And in general, like gathering information, right? He mentioned that the technical side is only such a small side of what makes a good poker player, right? He mentioned like, oh, there can be a great rec grinding at 510L, but why doesn't he move up? Well, probably, he's avoiding certain feelings that are associated with moving up, and he's finding different excuses of why he maybe wouldn't be able to move up. We also talked about expectations, how expectations set you up for frustration, right? So very important to align those expectations. Technically, we talked about, I think he if I quote him correctly, he said 5 shades of rags and 100 shades of fish. We talked a little bit about adjusting and putting like energy into playing versus recreationals. We also talked a little bit about the benefits of freestyling a bit more, making like actively thinking in game and making decisions versus having like a more standardized game plan. Basically, the further your opponent deviates from theory, the higher your return of investment of energy. So a recreational, for example, who deviates a lot from theory, who can we win a lot of money from if we give it our attention? That's probably then where our focus should be, or where at least our return of investment is the highest. We talked about strategy in terms of improving. He was a very big fan of observing better players and playing against better players, because if you play against better players, their strategies, they kind of review your weaknesses. So they will exactly do the thing that you don't want them to do. And you can learn a lot from that. I also definitely share that experience. He also rails a lot of games. And I think he mentioned that sometimes if he sees good players do something different than theory would suggest, it's interesting to try to figure out, okay, under which assumptions would his play actually be better than what the solver would do, and what can I learn from these assumptions? Like basically you're trying to learn reads that other players have by looking at deviations good players have in their strategy from GTO. All right. Yeah, I think those were kind of the main takeaways that I wrote down. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode with Severi. Thank you again, man, for coming on. A lot of wisdom. If you want to work with me and Adam, we have like a small early access opening to the Mechanics of Poker 3.0. We've reserved 10 spots. You can apply right now, mechanicsofpoker.com. Work with me and Adam. Make more progress in your poker career. Apply in the link down below, mechanicsofpoker.com, for early access, 10 spots for the Mechanics of Poker 3.0. We are now open for business. Adam, thank you, man, for co-hosting this podcast with me and providing great questions as always. Audience, thank you for listening all the way to the end, listening to our main takeaways. And I want to thank again our sponsors, GTO Wizard, Universal Poker, and I will see you guys in the next episode.